Hello everybody, King Salas recently put out a pretty big update, and as usual I'm going to be making a tier list with these big meta changes. Before I even get into my tier list, I'm curious what you guys think the best schools are going to be. Keep in mind this is a max level PvP tier list because that's where most people are at generally and what the game is supposed to be balanced around. Okay, starting off with balance. I think balance is going to have to be S tier. I don't really think anybody's going to dispute this point. This school is incredible. Even when Death was S tier last meta, Balance was the only school that was able to compete with Death. Balance is just really good at everything, and you can't really counter a Balance. There's not really a counter matchup for Balance. Burn and Pop are all just really incredible, and the devs have said they are looking into what to do with Mana Burn and Pop. Along with that, you have really good utilities like, Lore Master, Samurai, Scales, really good. More importantly, you have a Hydra pet card, which is almost equal to your Shadow enhanced hit, and it can go around a shield. Also, you have Spectral Blast, which is like 40% above balanced damage per pip on average. Also, you have Oni No War, which is again like a fire spell on a balance. So basically, this school can counter everything, and it doesn't really die. It has a lot of control over things, and it does a crap ton of damage. Okay, so let's talk about Death, because Death got nerfed, and I know some people are really upset about the Death nerfs, which I find a little odd, considering this school was literally destroying the game for the past year, and you had literal new players hitting Captain on the school when they could click any card and pretty much win. So let's actually constructively talk about things. Wraith was almost equal to a Shadow enhanced hit, and it's just a regular 6-pip hit. However, it's actually nerfed and follows Death actual, designed damage per pip now. So you don't have to worry about, eating a Wraith Shad every turn, pretty much. Also, this update banned TC Poison, but you have main deck Poison. This basically means you have to get used to cycling with Poison in your main deck. The issue with Death in the previous meta, or for the past year, was you had to counter the Poison because the Poison is so OP, but if you countered the Poison, you would have to eat a Wraith, which was also OP. So they're kind of both OP, so it's kind of good they took them both out in this update. That being said, I don't think this is going to kill Death at all. It just takes more skill to play, and that's always good because you should never have a case where new players can climb to the top of the leaderboard just because their school is better than everyone else's. If you look at the first page of the max level leaderboard, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's literally just Death and like Balance and like one other school. It's insane. But Death still has amazing stats. Chromatic weaknesses are still insanely overvalued. You still have Poison in main, which is a big deal. It'll just be harder to pull. You have Ghoul, which is also still insane at the end of the day. And Reader is like the best Shad in the game as well. The good deaths will understand you need to really go hard on the chromatic weaknesses since they're really broken currently right now. Same thing with Ghoul. So I think Death is safe in A tier for now. It's not S tier, it's not broken. You know, if you're a good Death, yes, you could probably win a lot of matchups, but it's not like an auto win school unlike Balance is right now. It's just a good school, and you need to learn how to play the school and get value, because most Deaths for the past couple of months to a year got rewarded for making horrible plays because of how overtuned the school was. Okay, enough about the Death rant. I just have to speak the truth sometimes. Sorry, guys. Fire. Fire is actually a really good school right now. And I might, ruffle some feathers with this, but I think Fire is it better than Death, man? I think Fire is better than Death, actually. This actually might be a little strange, but I think if a Fire can counter weaknesses with Snowman, I think Fire is just going to own Death nowadays. And Fires can actually Elephant a Death and not have to worry about a Wraith being like the be-all, end-all. Fire is a really good school with like, Fire Golem for Storm. It can deal with Ice really well. It's okay into Myth, but the Myth meta kind of indirectly like makes Myth better against Fire than Fire is against Myth right now currently. Storm is really tough to beat on a Fire now with the Serpent ban. A lot of the matchups got a lot harder as well, and Life obviously is a nightmare because, they just don't die. They have so much health. Goat Monk is insane. Fire's not bad, but if you're a good Fire player and you pace your pips well and your opponent doesn't, you can really punish a lot of people with like Krampus or free combos which a lot of the good fires will do in the game right now. In my opinion, I think fire is probably one of the most balanced schools in the game right now. And if you're a good player on a fire, you could easily rank up right now, but you obviously have to put in a lot more work than most other schools. But I think fire is in a really good spot right now. Doesn't really need, any buffs, doesn't really need too many nerfs. Ice. Okay, ice. Well, you don't have 5 counter matchups anymore. I think you only have 4 because you have Myth and Fire that beat you, Balance beats you, Life beats you, Death used to beat you, or be a 50-50, but now Ice should beat Death almost always. So you still have 4 counter matchups in the game when no other school has that right now currently. But you still have, Blimp Pet, you still have Tamaguchi, the Ice Pig, that is a fire card on an ice, which is insane. Frostbite did get banned, but you still have it in main deck to be fair, and you have a couple of decent cards like Thieving Dragon, Ice Wyvern, stuff like that. I don't think the school is as bad as people make it out to be. I just think the meta really screws Ice, right? Because when half of the game, again, 4 out of 7 schools are countering Ice and are favored to beat Ice, it's going to feel really crappy to be an Ice main currently in this meta right now. I think one thing Ice struggles with is accuracy, because obviously, it's hard to get your accuracy on an Ice in general, along with the 4 schools that counter you in the game. It just really is an awkward school to play right now, and it's not favored at all in the meta. But I don't think it's like really, really bad. I think Ice is the worst school right now, but it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. It's just the meta. Next up, we have Life. Now, I've been saying this for a couple months now. When Death is going to get nerfed, Life is going to shoot up the ranks, and we're already seeing that right now, currently. I think a lot of people would argue Life is going to be S tier, but I'm not sure it's going to be that high. Jading is kind of around. It's been around a little bit. It hasn't been really seen a lot by the community because Death has been keeping it in check for the past year or so. However, I think Life with this update is definitely going to be a top 3, top 4 school, in my opinion. And I think it's actually better than Fire. But yeah, Life is really, really good. Obviously, Balance is a tough matchup on a Life. But even your counter matchups like Storm and Death, yeah, it's tough to win. But if you're a good Life player and you play well, you can beat your counter matchups, which is Death and Storm. So that alone, just the fact that you can win certain matchups because how good your stats in your library are, is a big deal and a big luxury that other schools simply do not possess in the game right now, guys. I think once Dual School gets buffed in terms of accuracy and damage on the counters like Triton, I think Life might fall down a little bit, but as of right now, if you play a good Life player or a Jade and you pack the counters on an Ice or a Fire, stuff like that, they just don't work because the damage doesn't keep up, unfortunately. Even Storms who'd pack only Triton against Life, it doesn't always work against a Jade who really wants to Jade because they'll just eye the blades with Adapt and you can't do anything. So the only school right now that can, do anything against Life is Death still because of Dr. Vaughn. But the Deaths aren't queuing, obviously, because of the Wraith nerf, and they have to learn how to play with the chromatic weaknesses now. So yeah, I think Life is definitely deserving of a high A tier spot. Okay, Myth. Myth is definitely either S or A tier. My gut tells me to put Myth in A tier. I mean, okay, let's actually, constructively think about things for a minute. Your library is insane. Pigs, Drop Bear, Minnow. Fire, honestly, I'd argue is kind of Myth favored, because of the fact they can blade stack into a Jin, and Fire can't really do anything about that. And if the Fire tries to debuff the Myth with a weakness or a shield, they just lose because Drop Bear and Stone. So honestly, I would say Myth beats Fire right now. Myth can beat its counter matchups, which I believe is Life. So Myth can pretty much beat anybody in the game right now, including its counter matchups, if the player is good enough to understand the meta. So honestly, for that reason alone, I think Myth is going to be S tier with Balance, because the fact you can just pretty much beat anybody because of how good your school is right now in the game. I don't think it's quite as good as Balance. It's definitely S tier though. It's maybe A+, but it's definitely up here because you can beat any matchup in the game and your school's very easy to do. and you just do a crap ton of damage through debuffs and open hits. Storm. Now, I've been hearing some weird people in the community be like, oh, Storm's like A and S tier. I don't know what kind of drugs they're on. But, you know, I think Storm isn't that bad on paper. I just think that other schools are still way too good. Like, in a world where they ban, you know, cards that are, you know, Storm cards that are on balance, myth, fire, life, death, you know, ice, stuff like that, and they standardize the game, I'd honestly put Storm in like low A tier, in my opinion. But the reality is the game isn't balanced at all, and these schools do have access to Storm cards when they have better stats and more health. So it's tough. I put Storm in a high B tier currently, right now. I just think the meta really screws it because, you know, you can't dual school well. You can barely get the accuracy to dual school. Your damage output on dual school is really bad, and that disproportionately screws Storm the most. Also, when schools have access to Storm TPP cards, but they don't suffer any stat loss, like, you know, Oni No War, Ice Pig, Fire's Everburn, Life's Woodwalker, you know, Myth Ninja Pigs, when they have access to so much damage and stuff like that, and you can even talk about Fire King Artorias, you know, Drop Bear, Minnow, other schools just have such an easier time doing damage that it doesn't make Storm, like, that good. The best thing about Storm right now is the fact that you can catch the day and then Elf and still have a really good hit out of that. Storm at low ranks is definitely a lot better than it is at high ranks. If you rank up on a Storm, everything you do is just going to get countered. If you heal, they'll like try to gear your head. If you weakness them, they'll have like just fortresses and kick your ass. If you blade, the blade counters are just so good and your blade cards aren't good, you'll just fall behind and die. And that's another issue with the school, right? It's like you can't stay alive long enough to like do anything or do any pivots or anything cool like that because you're just constantly dead at all times. But yeah, I think once they, you know, fix the cards that are well above the damage per pip on the other schools, and they fix a couple of things like dual school, Myth and Fire are better at hitting than Storm is currently right now because of their spot on Rochambeau. Until they like fix and nerf the other schools, I don't think Storm can have its time to shine. Like I said, in a perfect world where the game is balanced, I'd argue Storm right now in this meta is easily A tier with Catch and Elf. Even if they just ban Elf, that will put the school probably down to like C tier. It depends. The school's in a very volatile spot right now. I think over time, as they fix more things in the game, the school will get better. But yeah, that's my tier list of the new meta. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would you change personally? Hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching and take care, guys.